Ladies and gentlemen, this is a particularly interesting story. And if I were to ask you what winning in the culture war means, how would you define it? What if I said this from FoxNews.com? White House condemns trans activist for going topless at Pride Month event. Quote, inappropriate and disrespectful. It's very fascinating. It's very fascinating because I did not expect to ever see the White House condemn a trans activist, to be completely honest. But here we are. There's a lot more to be said about this in an argument actually made by the activist as it pertains to whether or not you're allowed to expose the nipple. Now, this activist did not just whip out their fake breasts. The activist covered them with their hands. So there's actually a lot to break down on this. The fact the White House is condemning this individual, I think, speaks loudly to the fact that the right is winning the culture war with Bud Light, with Target, with Kohl's, with the desperate and psychotic attempts of leftists and death threats to Target. I think it's fair to say the White House sees the writing on the wall. But let's break this down and I'll explain to you exactly why. There's actually an argument to be made that you can actually go topless in many of these major cities. But decorum was challenged, and the White House stood by that, which is more traditional. Let's break it down. First, here's the story. The White House condemned trans activist Rose Montoya for going topless at President Biden's Pride Month event Saturday after a video went viral on social media. Montoya and others featured in the video posted by the trans model will not be invited to future events, a White House spokesperson said in a statement. This behavior is inappropriate and disrespectful for any event at the White House. It is not reflective of the event we hosted to celebrate LGBTQI plus families. I had another letter in there. Or the hundreds of guests who were in attendance. Individuals in the video will not be invited to future events, the statement read. Montoya, a TikTok influencer and biological male who is transgender, originally posted the video from Saturday's event. It shows Montoya and another unnamed, it's actually two trans activists, two females, burying their breasts on the south lawn of the White House in a view behind them. Let's break this down. They said it's not appropriate for their LGBTQ plus event. Have you ever been to a Pride event? They have tons of gratuitous sex. There's a video out of West Hollywood in the Los Angeles area where two men perform a sex act on each other in front of children. I'm not exaggerating. I would say, to clarify, I don't want to get the wrong idea, it's foreplay, but they have two men engaging in a sex act. So when Joe Biden invited these people to the White House, what did he think was going to happen? But hey, credit where credit's due. They're condemning these actions, condemning them. There's a lot to think about in this regard. Here's the video from Rose Montoya breaking down their views on what happened. I think it's important context. Let's hear it.
It has recently come to my attention that conservatives are trying to use the video of me topless at the White House to try to call the community groomers, etc.
Full stop. Conservatives? Joe Biden's White House just condemned your actions. Those are Democrats, right?
And I would just like to say that, first of all, going topless in Washington, D.C. is legal. And I fully support the movement in freeing the nipple, because why is my chest now deemed inappropriate or illegal when I show it off? However, before coming out as trans, it was not.
So this one's actually fairly easy to answer. The White House is not public city streets. You have a right, same as any others, under the Constitution to be treated equally under the law. And that means there is a 14th Amendment violation to say that women can't have to wear shirts, but men don't. And that was the way for a long time. A guy could take his shirt off and show his bare chest. A woman could not. And they said, hey, equality under the law. You can't simply say the chest of a female is not allowed, but a chest of a male is. So what happened? They said, okay, in most of these cities, it is now legal for women to go topless. But culturally, most women don't want to do it. But there's an interesting point being brought up.
All you're doing is affirming that I am a woman. All you're doing is saying that trans women are women, because for some reason, people like to sexualize women's bodies and say that they are inappropriate.
I actually agree decently with Rose Montoya on this regard. It is quite strange that a biological male can walk around with no shirt on and nobody bats an eye. That same biological male then gets implants, and now it's all of a sudden like that crosses the line. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm saying it is fascinating to me that the qualifier for what is over the line is whether or not there is some kind of mass behind the nipple. Because I don't know about Rose Montoya, but there are trans people who have implants, and people would be like, hey, don't show breasts. Perhaps the idea is it's not so much the nipple, but the idea of bearing breasts. I don't know. I think it is an interesting paradox in that you have two trans men, biological females, showing their bare chests with mastectomy scars. And then you have a trans woman showing what some people are saying is implants. It could be hormone induced breast growth. So they could be, human breasts. I don't know for sure, but I do think there is an interesting question in decorum and the law as it pertains to this. Now, that being said, my friend Rose, the condemnation is not just over you. The condemnation is also for the other trans individuals who removed their shirts, who are biologically female. Removing your shirt and bouncing the skin and breasts in front of the camera at the White House, all of it is it violates decorum. And that's the bigger issue. I love the automatic response of it's conservatives doing it. Okay, dude, look, this is the point. What these people view as being conservative is anything related to social order. And unless these people are allowed to do whatever they want and engage in gratuitous sex acts and nudity, then you are conservative. Wonderful. Let's hear the rest of what the individual has to say.
My trans masculine friends were showing off their top surgery scars and living in joy, and I wanted to join them. And because it is perfectly within the law in Washington, D.C., I decided to join them and cover my nipples just to play it safe.
And now you will never be invited back again. That's a bold statement right there. The White House saying we're not going to invite these people back. So you mean that if you have a pride event and people there engage in actually behaviors that aren't nearly as bad as we've seen at some of these pride events, you will not invite them back? I find that truly fascinating because there's videos of this individual doing other kinds of, I don't want to say over the top, but adult performances. I don't want to make it seem like porn or anything like that, but not appropriate for children events, to put it mildly. If they did any research into this individual, they would have seen that this is a likely scenario, but they didn't. Well, you learn the hard way, Biden, I guess.
Because I wanted to be fully free and myself. I had zero intention of trying to be vulgar or be profane in any way.
But you were.
I was simply living in joy, living my truth and existing in my body. Happy Pride.
Existing in your body. Truly, truly a remarkable way to view these things, my friends. In an ordered society, there are things we may want to do, but we don't do in public. You may have to go to the bathroom. You don't do it in public. Okay, not the same as getting naked. You may want to passionately engage in love making with your wife, but we don't do it in public. There are a lot of things we don't do in public. You want to live your true self? Yes. Every person has privacy and rights to live outside of the public view. And there are a lot of things that people would like to do they don't do in public for a variety of reasons. You decided that you had a right to live however you wanted. Well, surprise, surprise. The White House said no. You've deeply offended them. You've deeply offended many people. It's not just conservatives. Many people are offended. You don't just get to live how you want, as if no one else matters and no one else exists. Democracy is us choosing to live together and work together and compromise. You do not get to go out and assert you are paramount and you get to do whatever you want. We all work together and accept there are boundaries so that we can live together. But this is indicative of what we've seen at many of these pride events. People who think that their pleasure supersedes everyone else. No, that's not democracy. And these people break the law quite a bit. Now, it is legal to go topless in D.C. That's my understanding. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. But there are people at pride events, say in California, performing sex acts on each other. Why aren't the police arresting them? I got all day officers. Why aren't you arresting them? Because they're all complicit in this. They allow people to break the law. But then you realize when you see these things, the law always was culturally enforced, not legally enforced. Very rarely in history has it been an issue of, I'm sorry, the law is making me do it. It happens a lot. Don't get me wrong. Some of the most heinous things in history. What I mean to say is, though, there are laws in the books today that are never enforced. And why aren't the cops arresting people over these things? You can look up these books of old laws where it's like, you can't pull a bale of hay down on Sunday at noon. You can't put a pie on your windows. That's my favorite one. You can't put a pie on your windowsill Sundays in the afternoon. It was apparently because it attracted bears or something. You really think a cop's going to arrest someone because they have a pie on their windowsill? Ain't never going to happen. But it's on the books. You see, the real issue is cultural enforcement. In California, we can all look at the things they're doing, and we can be shocked and say, this breaks the law. Why aren't they stopping it? Because the culture there doesn't support the enforcement of those laws. Welcome to the modern era. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes. Stick around, and I'll see you all shortly.